Hello, hello, my loves. Welcome. We're going to be talking Halloween themed tarot decks and oracle decks that I will be using in my collection for the next 2 months. These are going to be the spooky themed decks that are going to go side by side, the spooky themed readings that I do have available on my website. So if you want to check it out, if you want to see what decks I will be working with, what decks that I hope to be working with, please keep watching. So we have quite a few decks that I want to show you. So let's just dive right in. Before we get into the actual horror and Halloweeny decks, I do want to show the two Rider-Waites that I did pull. I always pull a Rider-Waite deck. I love Rider-Waite, so I always have to have something there just in case nothing else feels right. So I'm going to continue working with this one. It's called the Tarot deck. It has a very vintage tea stained kind of a look to the cards. And it's just one of those cheap Amazon Rider-Waite clone decks that I purchased. And I've just really been in love with just the way that they feel when I shuffle. I love the colors. I love that it just has like a vintage feel. So this has been one that I've been working with for the last 2 months. And I think I'm just going to continue using her because she's been doing really, really well in my readings. The other Rider-Waite deck I'm using is the Glow in the Dark Tarot. I figured this is the perfect time, the perfect season to bring out a black and white deck. And then on top of it, it glows in the dark. So I just love that. And this one's a real fun one to work with as well. So these will be my two Rider-Waite decks for the spooky season. I did pull some decks that I'm not quite sure if I'm going to actually use, but I like to have them out, sometimes even just in the background of my video readings for looks. And one of those is the Vampire Tarot by Robert M. Place. So this is one of those decks that is usually sought after, like it's always on eBay and people are always looking for a copy, but it's not one that I reach for. I do hope to use this one. I do have a couple vampire themed readings in my video reading section. So I'm hoping when some of those get booked, I will probably pull this deck out. But for the most part, I love the aesthetic of the box. I just love the way it looks. And it's just kind of one of those fun ones that I like to put out on the table as like a background, something for the client to see in the background of their reading. So we will see if I pull these cards out to use. Another one that I'm not sure if I'm going to be working with, but I do have it on my table, is the Macabre Tarot. I'm trying to work with this one a little bit more. It isn't a deck that I reach all the time, but I'm gonna see if this season, if I have the perfect client with the perfect energy for this, or maybe I just have the perfect reading that gets booked. You never know. So she is going to be on my stack. She is another one that I like to kind of have in the background because who wouldn't love to see a gorgeous coffin-like box in the back of their video? Let's get into vampires because I do feel like I have the most vampire decks. So on top of that other vampire one that I just showed you guys, I obviously have to pull the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. It is a must. And every season, I always pull the first edition and the silver edition to work with. I love these cards. The first edition is my favorite, and the silver edition is just an extra treat. I love the way she looks in candlelight. And they're beautiful decks to work with. I love Baba Studio decks. Bohemian Gothic Tarot is probably my #1 most favorite tarot deck out there aside from Rider-Waite. So definitely have to have these guys for readings. Definitely a treat for my clients to see when I pull this one out for them. I also pulled out I love the little bag. I also pulled out my Tarot of the Vampires, or Vampire Tarot, but these are the card backs. You have the beautiful rose with the thorn, and these are a very romantic kind of energy with the vampires, very sexual, romantic energy. And they're this is one of the decks that I love to use for my Immortal Kiss reading, which is a love themed reading. So if you book that reading with me, usually the Tarot of Vampires is one of the decks that I use. The artwork is just beautiful. It's just your typical vampire vibe. I also use the Vampire Tarot. So this one has more of a manga, or like, you know, like the graphic novel, the characters, the cartoons. It has that kind of feel, but it's kind of dark. The deck itself is kind of dark. This was one that had to grow on me. At first, I wasn't as attracted to this deck, but it did grow on me, and I do love working with it now. So I'm really glad that I didn't give this one away. The Gothic Tarot. So this deck has been with me for many, many years. I wasn't sure if I was going to pull this one out for this season. I wasn't sure if I was going to work with it. It isn't a deck that I like to use for many people. It's kind of one of those where I have to choose wisely who I use it for, because the energy of this guy is very straightforward and very kind of tough love kind of energy. So I always have to make sure the client that I'm using it on is going to be able to handle the truth, you know. And I also have a very straightforward video reading, Ghostly Regrets. I think it's that one. We go into the topics of the hard truths and going into your negatives. And so when I do those, when I create my video readings, I have the certain decks in mind that I want to use those for. So the Gothic Tarot will definitely be used for that specific reading, or any other ones that I feel called to. So definitely glad I pulled that one out. So I keep my zombie deck in my little Frankenstein bag, and I love to use this one for just kind of like my, again, like my more deeper readings where we're kind of going into the hard truths of the matter. This is a very straightforward deck as well, and I do tend to pull this deck out for a lot of past life themed readings, or when I work with it, I get a lot of past life kind of messages. So it'll be interesting to see what comes through with this one. Now, this is probably one of the only skeleton decks as far as my tarot cards go, that I have, which is the Flux Arcana Tarot. I do have the Santa Muerte Tarot, which I decided not to pull that one out this year. I used it a lot last year, and I kind of want to give it a break and bring out some other ones. So the Flux Arcana is has a very dark vibe to it. And it's beautiful. It's all skeletons, very creepy, very kind of raw. When I work with it, it's a very raw energy. So it will definitely require the right client. But I think this will be a good one to work with for some of those more tough question kind of readings. I don't know. I might even use it for myself, to be honest. I love the energy for me. There's going to be the right client and the right booking for this deck. I'm also going to be working with the Ghoulish Garb Terror Tarot, and it is only a major arcana deck. So I do have some ideas in mind to use this one. I do like to pull archetypes sometimes in readings, and using a major only deck is perfect for that. So I think this one will be a fun little one to pull for those kinds of messages. I decided to bring out the Occult Tarot, which is very similar to the Demon Tarot. It's kind of still the theme of like the fallen angels. And I think this one will be really good to work with. It is a very creepy deck. It kind of just gives you the creepy creeps when you really think about working with the fallen angels or the demons. But at the same time, as long as you're wise about how you're using the cards, I don't think it's much of a problem. I've never had a personal problem with it. So this one will make a debut for certain readings. I have certain readings in mind that I want to use this one for. I have two ghost tarots that I am really excited to be using this season. Obviously, the main one, the Ghost Tarot. If you don't have this in your collection, you should. It is a beautiful deck, especially if you love ghosts or the paranormal or just kind of like that spooky energy. This is a really cool one. And I find that it reads really, really well. It's very similar to Rider-Waite energy, and I just really love it. So I also have specific video readings that I want to use this for. I might pull this one out when I do some seance readings. It's just going to be so much fun. I also have the Cute Ghost Tarot. It does have a very cutesy energy to the cards, which is not a bad thing. It'll be actually perfect for some clients that may not be super into the spooky energy, or I just get the vibe that they need something a little bit softer and nicer as opposed to the Ghost Tarot. So I'm really excited to have added a second Ghost Tarot to my collection. The Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. As you guys know, I fell in love with this deck. This has become a huge favorite of mine. It reads really, really well. And I can't wait to use this throughout the whole season. I think this deck is going to get a lot of love the next 2 months. I also added the Hocus Pocus Tarot to the deck, to the pile. This is probably my one and only witch deck, aside from some oracles that I have. I really need to up my witch tarot deck collection, but the Hocus Pocus is cool. I love it. Beautiful deck, very easy to read, lots of fun, and it's going to get a lot of work as well. And the Horror Tarot. This is one of my favorites. I loved this deck. Last season, I probably used this one the most. I'm not even kidding. It gets such amazing messages. It is so accurate. It reads really well. I love the creepiness to the artwork. It's just so good. Sometimes I notice I'll have some of my decks in my pile, and really some of them don't even get touched. That happens every season, but sometimes I am just so into a certain deck that I just always go for it. And this was that one last year. So we'll see what happens this year with this. When you think of Halloween tarot cards, these are the epitome of the Halloween tarot cards. And obviously I will be using the Halloween tarot deck, the one you can find on Amazon. It is so good. It is, to me, the ultimate Halloween deck. If you love Halloween, if you love tarot, this has to be in your collection. It is a must. I just bought a new copy. I did a whole massive deck mod to it, and I cut off the borders and everything, and it just turned out to be this teeny tiny little deck. But I got tired of it. Like, I love full size, standard size decks to shuffle. So I decided to buy another copy, and we're gonna work with the new copy. So this one is the Trick or Treat Tarot. So if you like Halloween-y stuff, but you don't really like the cartoon kind of artwork, the Trick or Tarot has more kind of like, to me, it reminds me of like vintage Halloween collage. It's really, really sweet. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. It does have the scrapbook kind of a feel, like a collage, like you have different images that were just kind of mishmashed and put together, and it just works. It does have a very vintage Halloween vibe. So if you love that kind of feel, this deck will probably be a big favorite for you. And lastly, in my cute little deck bag here, this deck came into my collection last year, and I freaking love it. I'm so excited that I was able to get a copy, and that is the Happy Halloween Tarot by Sonia Graves. She only had like so many copies left of the Happy Halloween Tarot, and that she wasn't going to be doing another run of it. So of course I had that on my wish list, and I waited for that day to claim a deck, and I was so excited I was able to claim one. I don't know if she's going to come out with another edition. She says she's not, but maybe she will. Who knows? but I was happy enough to snag it. So unfortunately, if you wanted a copy of this, I don't believe there's anything else available unless you see them pop up on eBay. But if you follow Sonia, sometimes she will post stuff about her upcoming work, and maybe she will be doing another run of it. Who knows? But it's such a treat. I freaking love it. It is the ultimate, well, to me, this is the ultimate Halloween tarot deck, but this is a really close backup. It's so freaking cute. It's just like Halloween threw up all over your reading table. It's just that good. Okay, you guys, so let's go into the Oracle decks. First off, we have Madame Endora's Fortune cards. These are... I've had these literally my entire tarot journey. I love this deck for my fortune telling readings. Every season, every spooky season, I put out a future forecast type of a reading for my video readings. And in that one, we go into looking at your future. So your typical fortune teller type of energy, that is what this deck is for. It works so good. It reads really, really good. It's so spot on all of the time, like creepily spot on. And I love it. So Madame Endora's Fortune cards. Flowers from the Dead Oracle. This deck has a creepy, like, animal skulls, like skeletons of animals type of energy. So I kind of use this also side by side, like an animal spirit guide message reading kind of a thing because of the animal feel. But it's just a really cool deck. It's one of a kind. It was one of those random indie decks that I found at a random Halloween-y store, and it was just the best thing ever. So Flowers from the Dead Oracle. Another creepy oracle that was one of a kind. This was an Etsy purchase. It is called the Oracle of Nightmares. It is a very dark deck, but it pretty much gives you a feel like you are walking through a nightmare. It is really, really good. It's really creepy, and you just get that feel of that nightmarish energy. This deck comes in handy. I love using it side by side, ghostly readings or seance readings. It's just a really fun one to include in a session. So always use that one. And here I have the Halloween Oracle. I don't have the box for it, but this deck is number one, probably the number one favorite when it comes to Halloween Oracle decks. You cannot not have this deck. Like, if you're a Halloween fan, you should have this one in your collection. It is pretty much an oracle deck of all Halloween themed images and messages, and it just has a little bit of everything in it, and I love it. It reads really, really well. It's definitely a favorite. They're all my favorite, to be honest, but this one is a really good one. This season, I decided to not go with the Oracle of Oddities. So that's another deck that I decided to give it a rest this season. Instead of Oracle of Oddities, I will be working with the Memento Mori. So this is like that Lenormand / Oracle type of a deck. I love using this for the seance readings. I will definitely be using this when I'm connecting with spirit. I get a different type of a feel when I'm using these cards. It requires a lot of trust. It requires a lot of tapping into your intuition. And I kind of look at it as a little bit of a challenge to see how spirit is going to communicate in these readings. And then, of course, I have all of the extras that this deck comes with. So I will be pulling this out specifically for seance readings and maybe some other themed readings, we'll see, but mainly the seance. Earth and Bone Oracle. This was one I wasn't sure if I was going to use. I may or may not still use it. I pulled it though because it does have like that shadow, kind of like that shadow work energy to it. And I know, especially if somebody books my Ghostly Regrets reading, that this will be a good one to use. So I think it'll come in handy, but it will probably stay to the back of my pile because, like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it this season or not. So Earth and Bone Oracle. Another one that I want to use specifically for seance readings is the Voice of the Souls Oracle. So this one has a really good feel for mediumship messages. And just like if you're talking to spirit, it's a really cool deck. It's really unique. I just added it to the collection a couple months ago. But if anyone books my Spirit, Me and You seance reading, this will definitely get some use. Like I said, when you're pulling the cards, you feel like you're talking to spirit. It's just a different kind of a feel, and I love it. So I cannot wait to use this in your messages. And then lastly, of course, we have the Seasons of the Witch decks. So obviously right now I'm currently working with Seasons of the Witch, the Mabon Oracle, which is all fall energy, and I love it. This deck is so beautiful. It reads so well. And then as we go closer to October, Seasons of the Witch, the Samhain Oracle. And you do get your little messages, your witchy messages, your spooky messages. It's just a really cool deck. This is ultimately my favorite one, but this is probably a close second. They're beautiful decks. So definitely excited. And even though I said I don't have a lot of witchy decks, like as far as tarot goes, these are my favorite to use for the oracle decks. So I love them, and I cannot wait to see what kind of messages these amazing decks bring forward to my clients. So you guys, that concludes my dark themed, Halloween themed decks for the season. That is everything that I will be working with, and I look forward to seeing, how the readings go, what readings you guys book. I'm really, really excited. I have a couple of spooky theme readings that have already been booked that I will be working on this week. But as always, if you want to check out what I have to offer, go to my website. The link is in the description box. Check out my offerings, and if you are subscribed to my newsletter, I sent one out at the beginning of the month. It includes an exclusive coupon code that you can use towards your bookings. I usually send out a second newsletter mid-month, so if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. All the information is in the description box, and get yourself a fun spooky theme reading. But other than that, my loves, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you guys in my next video very, very soon. Bye, guys.